In this video, you want to find the zeros of a polynomial, right? So you are going to find the zeros of what? Any polynomial function, right? So polynomial function here. And then for you to have the zero, the first thing that you must know the factors of those polynomial. And then here I'm going to explain exactly what factors are, right? So factor, using this question, we are told that x minus 2 is a factor of what? The polynomial. So this is the polynomial. This is the polynomial that we are having. We are having this to be the polynomial. That is what? 4s exponent 3 and then minus 19s squared and minus as, right? As and then minus 14. And then we are told that this guy here is a factor. Now we know that if you are a factor, or if you don't know if you are a factor, it means that when you solve you, right? So what I mean by the solve is that you have to equate this guy to 0. So straight for you can have that your x to be equal to 2. So once you have this s is equal to 2, you plug this into the polynomial being given to you. So this is a polynomial. Is that okay? Because you are a factor. So if you're a factor, then if you solve it and then you have your character, what I mean by your character here is that the x is equal to 2 here, and then we plug that into the polynomial that we are having, the function here, that must be equal to 0. Is that okay? It must be equal to 0. So when you replace the x by 2 from the polynomial being given to us, anything that you have to get must be equal to 0. That is the definitions of a factor. So once again, if you say that this guy is what? A factor of the polynomial, it means that when you solve this guy, you had your x to be equal to 2 here. If you plug that into the polynomial function, you must get 0. The reason is that it is because this guy is what? A factor. So that's what the question is, says that this guy is what? S minus 2 is what? Is a factor. So we are going to solve that and plug that into the polynomial function here. But remember, the question says that we should find the values of a, right? So this guy here. So based on what we know and what we have been given, we are given this guy. So we solve that, plug that into this one, and then straightforward, you need to find the values of your a. So let's quickly do that. So once you solve the guy, we had s to be equal to 2. So you are going to replace s by 2 from what? The function. So this is a polynomial function. Whatever you see the x, we replace that by what? By 2. Is that okay? So this is the guy that we are having. You're having guy to be what? S minus s is equal to 2 here. Right? So let's replace that. So just replace into the function. So whatever you see the s, let's replace that by 2. So this guy here, 2 will be here, and then 2 will be here too, and here too, 2 will be here. Is that okay? Now do your calculation very simple. You can see that 2 exponent 3 here will give us what? 8. Make sure that you put this guy into what? A bracket. Is that okay? Now 2 exponent 3 will give us what? 8 here, and then this guy will also give us 4. And then here, as usual, that will be what? 2a. So let's do the expansion here. So 4 multiplied by 8 will give you 32. This guy multiplied by that should be 74. Here will be 2a. And remember that we are equating everything to be equal to 0, right? So we are equating everything here to be equal to 0. The reason is that the guy being given to us is what? A factor, right? So this guy is a factor. Okay, now if you equate everything to 0, that also just be obvious, straightforward. And then you have here, you are left with, if you add this guy to that negative what? 76 and then minus 14, you are going to have a negative 58, right? And then plus the 2a here. So that should be equal to 0. So remember, we are looking for what? A, right? So subtract, let's add here by 58 and then add 58 by a. Or you may, in some case, you can take this guy to the other side of the equation. Then you have your 2a to be equal to 58 here, and then you are going to have to divide both sides by 2, right? So divide both sides. You have your a to be equal to 29, right? So you have a to be equal to 29. So that's what the question is, say that we should find your a. So a is equal to 29, right? So a is equal to 29. So wherever you see the a here from what? The polynomial function, right? So polynomial function here, we are going to put what? 29 here. Is that okay? Now, so this is what our new polynomial will look like. That's 4s exponent 3 and then minus 19s squared and plus 119s minus 14, right? So this is where what we had to be the a. Now the second part of the question is that you should find the 0. This is the main reason for this video. So you are going to find the zeros of what? A polynomial. So how to find the zero is the most important thing. for you to find the 0, make sure that first of all you know the factors of all the polynomial, right? So this is the key where you have to know the factors of the polynomials. And then we are given one factor. So one factor here is equal to s minus 2. This is one factor. So that is not the only factor. So you have to find the remaining factors. So how do you do that? If you don't know how to do that, make sure that you watch this video to the end, whereby I bring you some tricks on this particular issues here. Okay, now once you are given one factor, so in this case you are given one factor, so which is what s minus or s minus 2. So we are going to use this factor to divide this polynomial. Is that okay? So you use this factor, which is s minus 2 here, and then you divide that by what? The polynomial, right? So once you divide that by the polynomial, you're going to have a quadratic. So let's see how to do that. Now let's quickly see how to divide the polynomial by the factor, right? So the reason why we are doing that, we are going to find the remaining factors. So we are given one factor, that is the s minus 2. And then with the factors in hand, we can easily find what? The zeros of this polynomial. So how do you divide that? You make sure that this guy, this x here, will go into 4s exponent 3. How many times? That will give us 4s squared. Is that okay? So 4s squared, right? So the trick here is that this guy just reduced by 1, right? So the exponents of the s just reduced by 1 with the numbers that are attached to this guy here. So that's the trick, right? So okay, this one going to that 4 exponent, so 4s exponent 2. So use the guy to multiply everything here. So that's the 4s squared multiplied by the s here will give you what? 4s exponent 3. Is that okay? And then this guy multiplied by this guy will give us negative 8x squared, right? So that is how simple you divide this thing, right? So now what do? You are going to subtract. So you subtract everything here. So let's see how to subtract that. So this guy minus this, you have 4s exponent 3 here minus 4 exponent 3. That should be 0, right? So here you have what? Negative 19s squared minus this guy, right? Are you getting the point? So here we are subtracting, right? We are subtracting. So minus what? Minus this guy, that will be positive what? Positive what? 8 here, 8s squared. Is that okay? So this guy minus that should be what? Negative 11s squared, right? So negative 11s squared here, and then here we are going to have a plus of that one is 0, so that should be 29s minus 0. There's nothing here. That will be a positive 29s, and then negative 14 minus 0 here, so that should be a minus 14, right? So this is how simple you divide a polynomial. So at this point, the same procedure is okay. The same procedure. So this guy will go into this how many times? That should be what? Negative 11s, right? Negative 11s, and then you continue the procedure. So let me pause the video and continue from there, and come back and check your solutions. So I had this beautiful expression after dividing. So I had my 4s squared minus 11s plus what? Plus 7, right? So this is the procedure. Just have a look, should in case you had some mistake. Okay, maybe if you enjoyed the video so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and comment down below if you have any issue, right? Okay, now once you've done this thing here, you can see that this is the polynomial of what? Exponent 3, right? Polynomial of what? Exponent 3. So here you are going to have a quadratic as your answer. So that's the 4s squared minus 11s plus 7, right? So that's the answer. So you need to solve this guy here and then have two factors. Remember, this is what? A quadratic, right? So you need to solve this quadratic and have two different factors. So pause the video and try this quadratic, and then come back and check the factors of this quadratic. So once you solve the quadratic, we are going to have these two factors. Of course, you solve that quadratic by factorization method, right? So you are going to have these two factors here. Now that we have these two factors, all I have to do, remember that from the question, we are given one factor, that is what? S minus 2, right? So at the beginning of the video, you had one factor to be what? S minus 2. So add that to that. So in all, we are going to have three different factors. So let's add that one here. That is the S minus 2 here. So these are the factors. So with the factors here, we can easily solve for the what? For the zeros. So how do you solve for the zeros of the polynomial? You equate the factors to 0. Is that okay? So you solve everything one by one. So first of all, this guy here, that's what s minus 1 equal to 0. This implies that s is equal to 1. So 1 0 here is what? Is the 1 here, right? So this is 1 0. And the second one, you solve this guy, that should be what? 4s minus 7, that is equal to 0. This implies that we have 4s, that is equal to 7. You divide both sides by what? By 4. You have your s to be equal to 7 over 4. So that's another one. So the last one here, you are going to have your s to be equal to 2, right? So the zeros of the polynomials here are the values of the x here. So 1, you have the x to be what? 1 here, and then this guy to be what? 7 over 4, and then this guy also be what? To be 2. So the zeros here are what? We have what? 1, and then comma 7 over 4, and what? And then 2, right? Is that okay? So this is very, very simple. So let's look at some of the tricks here. So what I promised to give you at the end of the video, if you are still here, so let's have a look at the tricks. Now, in this question, you were told that this if x squared plus s minus 2 is a factor of this polynomial, right? So the polynomial that we are having is 2s exponent 3 and then plus 9s squared and minus plus what? mx and then minus what? N. So these two values are what? Integers, right? They are numbers. So the question says you should find the values of what? M and N. Now the key here is that they say this guy is what? A factor. So remember, look at this guy here. He's what? Quadratic. Is that okay? So the key here is that you have to solve this quadratic first and have two separate factors, right? So if you have these two separate factors and then you plug the values of the x from the factors into the polynomial, right? So if you plug this guy, okay, so in this case, let me give you the key here. So after solving, you should have after solving this quadratic here, you are going to have two factors. That's also x minus 1 and then s plus 2 for the quadratic. So remember what I did earlier on at the beginning of the video. So you just need to solve this guy to be equal to 0, and then this means that your x is equal to 1. So here too, you are having your s is equal to negative 2. So you plug 8 factors here into what? The polynomial, right? So wherever you see the x, you place that by what? By 1 for the first one, and then the second one, wherever you see the s, you place that by what? Negative 2. So 1 by 1. So you first of all need to plug this guy into the polynomial function, and then second one, you plug this guy here, which is negative 2, into the polynomial. So you are going to have two different equations, which is what you are going to solve those two different equations by what? Simultaneous equation, right? So here in this case here, let's say s is equal to 1, right? So here, wherever I see the s, I will place that by 1. So you have 1 exponential 3 plus or 9 s exponential square, and so on and so forth, right? So remember, you are going to just simplify the expression that you get. So you are going to have two different simultaneous equation, right? Simultaneous equation, right? And then you solve this one simultaneously. So if you solve the two equations simultaneously, you straightly have the values of the m and the n, right? So that is very, very simple. If you have any problem, comment down in the comment section below for help.